don't want to do that.
Hi, folks, and welcome to Infinite Theatre's Playwright Chat Room, the fall session. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Mazel Tov by Marc-André Thibault. I'm Guy Sprung. I am, in fact, the outgoing artistic director of Infinite Theatre. We can discuss that further more, but in the meantime, let me introduce the panel. Let me remind you, this process is a process of genuine dramaturgy. We're here because Mazel Tov is a play that the Infinite Theatre wants to produce, was hoping to produce in March, and we're hoping that this process will inspire, will nudge Marc-André Thibault to even greater heights of playwriting. So that's what we're here for, to have some fun, have a little chat, and to try and see if we can't talk about a play in a way that's constructive and might get it to the next draft. So let me first introduce Marc-André. Marc is the writer. You have your own theater company. This is not your first play. And this play was actually written, of course, in French at first and was done at the Théâtre Prospero in French. Yep. And we'll get to that in a second. Ellen David saw it in French, and that's why we are here today. But before I do that, let me also introduce Manuel Tadros. Manuel, you are, of course, a huge star on the Quebec scene. This is so wonderful that you are joining us for this. You played the father in the original production. I understand. Yes. I did not see it myself.
No? Okay.
You have also, you're a singer and a composer of music. You've even, I think, done some of the composing for Cirque du Soleil. Is that right? I think.
Yes, it's right. It's right. Yes. I wrote some songs for Alegria, for the show Alegria. Yeah.
Okay. And you also
which has been withdrawal from the scene now.
Well, as we all maybe have, but you're also, I believe, responsible for a certain young filmmaker, of Quebec filmmakers, so Xavier Dolan. So thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to hearing what you tell us about the character, the father character.
Yes.
When we get there. I'm going to jump now to Ellen, because Ellen is, of course, a long-standing collaborator with Infinite Theatre. She has the freedom, and knows she has the freedom to bring us projects. And she brought this project to us, and we did a reading of it at the Pipeline last year, and that elicited certain remarks, certain comments that pushed us a little bit further, I think. Ellen, maybe, of course, you're also the artistic producer in the new team, as incoming team, as it were, but we will get there later. So Mazel Tov, you saw it in the French version. Why did you think it might work for us, for Infinite?
Well, I'll just tell you a little bit of the origin story. I like to go see as many things as I can in English and in French, and I'm looking through, I don't know what it was, online or the newspaper, seeing what shows are playing, and I see this show Mazel Tov, and going, why don't I know about that? And it's not at the Seagull, it's not at any theater that I know, it's being done in French, and so that intrigued me to no end. So I went to Théâtre Prospero. I didn't see Manuel, who I've known before, in the production. I saw another actor playing the role. So it must have been after the original production. And to me, it just took my breath away. It's very dark. It's very funny. It's very provocative. It pushes the envelope. And I just thought it was just, to me, so interesting. And I went and met Marc-André after. We had a little conversation, and we kind of followed up and got to know each other a little bit and had some meetings. And I decided that I'd like to take it to you, Guy, because I thought it should be done in English, much the same as when we did La Société des Loisirs. I went to you and said, we have to do this in English in Quebec, the leisure societies. So I just thought along those lines, this might be something that, you know, Infinite Theatre would, of course, brokering local and Quebec playwrights would be interested in. And then you were interested, and so Marc-André took the time and did a translation of the play and worked on that for a little while. And there were a few different drafts, and then it went to one of the readings in the pipeline. And I'm just sort of, it's just amazing me that we're all sitting here because I went to see this show. It's so magical, it's so wonderful. Quelle rencontre avec Marc-André. On fait d'autres projets ensemble. We're you know, we'll collaborate on other things. And I feel very honored that you actually included it in the pipeline and that people got to see it. And then it's in a process now of evolving, and that had that terrific cast. Patrick Abelard, Manuel Abelard was in the cast along with Howard Rosenstein and Al Keener and Alana Dunkelman. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all started for me.
Okay, so you kind of knew that Infinite Theatre might be the only or one of the few theaters with the guts to take on something that was walking the line of political incorrectness here and there. And hopefully we will be able to do that in March. More about those plans in a second. Thank you very much, Ellen, for being here. I'm going to jump down to Patrick Abelard. Patrick, you're in a position as an actor of being able to work both in English and French. You lucky on you. Anyway, you worked with us on Fight On, but you also almost starred in one of Denis Arcand's, his last film. I know that, so welcome. And thank you very much. And as Ellen said, you were the reading, and we'll talk about the part that you read from your point of view. I'm really interested in knowing what you felt, what you feel about the guy.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna jump up to Michela de Cesare. Michela, you, of course, are one of our great playwrights as well coming up, and as an actor as well on stage. You've actually worked with Patrick on stage as well. So here we are to discuss your play, Marc-André. Mazel Tov. Let me very quickly jump back to you. Why would a Francophone tackle the play in a Jewish milieu about anti-Semitism?
I guess I like challenges. It first started with I just wanted to do a short play about a guy that is in a situation he can't handle, and I just began to write this short play, and it went really well. I had fun writing it, and I just continued to write it till it was a long play. And I had the chance to work with the Jewish community, artistic Jewish community before that. I also produced a play from Hanoch Levin. It was the first play I produced with Théâtre Bistouri. So I knew a little bit more than my fellow French-Canadian friends. So I knew a little bit more about this community, and I wanted to know more. So I did my researches, and there it is.
Okay, has anybody complained about a Francophone writing about anti-Semitism in a Jewish situation to you? I ask because it's the question, obviously, of the day, you know, sensitivity. Are we allowed to actually cross over into other cultures as we imagine and write about things?
I haven't heard any complaint. Maybe there are some, but they didn't come to me. So yeah, I know that it's a subject that it can be really sensitive, but I think that people know or feel when you're doing something with respect, when you're doing your researches, when you're trying to understand the other and to write about something that is not easy. So I believe that we can write on anything, but we have to find a way. We have to find a way to write about it, to be smart about it, to make laugh and you know, push people to think about it a little bit more.
I apologize. We went right into the deep end very quickly, so I'm sorry about that. I just want to say that
No problem.
I just reread the play now, and I don't know how many times I've read it. And of course, we heard it and we did it in the pipeline and so on. And even at the end, this last time reading it, I get close to choking up because it is so powerful. The characters that you've written and the impossible situations that you have put them in are so powerful that you've really got a very, very strong play in here. And of course, I love the fact that there's humor in there too. It's almost like a bit of a farce at times, as they're trying to hide the dope from Isabel and so on. Let me just quickly.
Yes, that's my little Martin McDonagh side.
I'm just gonna let me jump down to Patrick. Your reaction to the play when you first read it. What did you feel about it?
I thought it was a great play. I mean, I was very grateful that Ellen reached out to me to come and play in this, and I was like, man, it was really ironic that I ended up playing myself, or like just playing a Patrick. That was funny for me. But I was, I guess I was just glad to be involved in something like this. I saw the, I guess, Jewish content of it. I thought, wow, this is an interesting place for me to be as a young African-American person. So, I just thought it was a cool thing. So, yeah. But it was definitely a great play. Like when I read it, I thought it was really well written. I thought it was funny. I thought there were some touchy moments. I thought it was just really well executed personally.
I have a specific question about the Patrick character in it, which I'll leave with you. You don't need to answer it now, but do you feel that he is torn enough between his wife and his best friend? That's the question I'm going to leave with you and get back to you in a second, okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Manuel, when you first read it and in the playing of it, did you believe this Father Leon character?
Yes, I did. I was a little astonished that he was smoking joints, but I have lots of friends in the Sephardic French Jewish community, and some of them came to see the reading, and some of them went to the Prospero to see the play, and no one I know of my friends were shocked or wherever I think they laughed. I think they have this opening mind, which makes that there is no picky things about it. I think that the play touched me a lot because I felt I could be this man, a little more loose than him. But when we discover in Leon the way he is, his opening-minded, and the game he plays to be straight, but finally he's not that straight. He is straight about traditions. He's straight about family, respect, and all that. But he's pretty open-minded on other things, and he's pretty funny. He's a little misogyne. How would you this when he talks about his wife and about women? But I felt very very well when I did it, and I didn't think I needed to be out of me. You understand what I mean? I just did it, and people laughed a lot at the moment when Leon is pretty comical too. He's funny. He's funny because he's surprising. That's what I love about him, and he is a good man. He is a good man too. He has a big good heart. He might be severe sometimes, but at least he has a good heart, and he touches people with his personality. And when you said that Marc-André wrote it for how come he wrote it in French? There is a big French Jewish community in Montreal, maybe not in the province because we played it around Joliette or Notre-Dame de l'Assomption, pas vrai, Marc? And c'est ça. And there is not a lot of Jewish there. The people were the crowd were pretty Québécois, and the comments I had is. they learned a lot about acceptations and comprehension through this play, this reading we had. And this is most of the nice comments I had. Well, that's nice. Now we understand. We understand more. And I think it's funny because if you play it, you're gonna have a lot of spectators from the English Jewish community, which didn't come naturally at the first.
I want to ask a question to both of you, and maybe to Ellen as well, about the difference between the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic. But just very quickly on that character of Leon. Obviously, what is so neat about the writing is that juxtaposition. There's a guy who is very strict, and obviously, as an actor, to get the payoff of him smoking dope and joints, you have to be totally almost orthodox in the way you lay the character out, so that we're really surprised. And that's from a point of view of writing, that's a lot of fun, right?
Yes, it was.
An actor can have some fun with that character, and
I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun doing it, and I had a lot of fun to search the right tone, to keep being straight and keep being authentic and real and with a good-hearted man, you know. And this was the good dose. Marc-André directed me very well about this, and we found a very good way to make him sympathetic to the people.
Let me quickly bring in Michaela here. Michaela, sorry, it's been so long here. So your reaction when you read the play, any thoughts, any reactions to it?
Absolutely thought it was, as other people have said, well written, moments that were laugh out loud funny. You know, there was comedy in moments that you wouldn't expect, which is always the best kind. Absolutely, as you said, you know, towing a line of political correctness, which is an interesting and charged place to be. I was going to say at the moment, but probably always. Yeah. So those things all stood out to me. It was an enjoyable read. I read through it really quickly, wanted to know what was next, was you know, disappointed that I got to the end really quickly. It's a shorter play. A lot of my questions revolve around Isabel and Isabel's portrayal, and I was nodding voraciously when Manuel said that the dad is misogynist, because he definitely is. Mm-hmm. And that's fine, but there are choices that are made, and I think a lot of my questions revolve around Isabel. I don't know if I should get into that now or...
Well, why don't we start to go there, because after the reading, Xavier will constate this. There were some remarks about that Isabel was not written strongly, not written, and you know, was not in enough detail, and maybe was not was a little bit unlikable. And I think we felt the difficulty in trying to understand, why would Patrick fall in love with this woman, you know?
Yeah.
So she's funny. She's funny, Isabel. She's a little, you know, she's in a crisis actually during the play, but generally she's nice. She is, you know, and she is in a trap, because she's caught between her family and the love she has for Patrick, and it's hard for her to balance everything well. But I found her. Well, in the reading, I was laughing a lot when she was in crisis. And I think she's funny. She's not only negative.
Right.
I had to find ways to make her more likable, as you said. And it's from the beginning, from the first draft until now, it's something that I had to work on, because I know, as Manuel said, I know how she can be. But I also know that the scenes where she is portrayed are not the scenes that she is really likable. She's going through hell in this play, so it's really hard to be like, oh yeah, Isabel, what a nice girl. So that's why I tried. I put some little keys here and there. The last thing that I added to the play was the new scene 0, just to see her in another context. First scene that we see her where everybody is a little bit drunk, and that's my last try to see is it a good key just to see her in another context and to like her a little bit more.
And I'm curious, does that first scene do enough for us, do you think, Michaela, in there? I still don't understand why Patrick loves her. And I think that maybe that's a given one can accept, I don't know, but I'd like to know, I'd like to see what it is he sees in her somewhere. I don't know if that's necessary or possible. Michaela, any ideas on the character yourself? I mean, let's not ask Marc-André to weaken the strength of his characters, right? We don't want 4 wonderful, beautiful people. That would make absolutely boring theater, okay? So Isabelle has a moment where she gets angry and she runs out and hits Philippe over the head with her high heel. Do you buy that?
Are you asking me now?
Yes, I am. Sorry, Michaela.
Okay, I was. I think I'll just kind of go through the points that I was planning to bring up.
Please.
Believable, possible. Let me just start at the beginning. It's absolutely not a case of having 4 extremely likable people. Nobody wants to watch that. I adore women who are unlikable and and who make complicated choices on stage. But Isabelle borders on completely detestable. And now this is based on one reading, reading it cold on the page. I wish I had seen a wonderful, capable actor like Alana Dunkelman play it, and I'm sure that there's comedy to be mined there. I'm sure she could even become an audience favorite, as Manuel was saying. But I worry about the portrayal because I think even when she's being funny, she's kind of being hysterical and she's being a stereotype. And I think that all the other characters beautifully evade stereotype, and Isabelle doesn't get that. She's not granted that. So yeah, believability that she hit him in the head, absolutely, because her husband was being a wet rag and wasn't participating in that initial confrontation whatsoever. However, I think that one of the imbalances that happens is actually that pretty early on. It's because Philip's bad behavior happens off stage. And there's reasonable doubt. We don't see it, and so it happens, and it's like a nebulous thing for the audience. Whereas we see Isabelle's actions, and they come with extreme consequences. So I think already that sets her up. It becomes really difficult for the rest of the play not to sympathize with the quadriplegic, and he becomes almost irreproachable after that point. We don't really see him being as smarmy and as gross as what's recounted in the first scene. Philip is he's then just a disabled person who's had this tragedy happen to him. So I think that the weight is not distributed evenly enough. And Isabelle she reads really shrill. I know she's going through something, but it's just that these are all traps. They're traps and they're stereotypes. So she's shrill, she's unreasonable. She can't even the weed scene, we don't even have the opportunity of seeing a different side of her in that. She just comes in and she's always on her husband's ass. She's always, and when I said that everybody else evades stereotype, I think that one of the stereotypes that comes up a lot for Isabelle is the daddy's princess kind of thing that gets said a lot. And it's never really challenged. So I think that is something running and crying to her dad happens twice, calling for his help and trying to get the lawyer. And so there's that is stereotypical. I think her agency is questionable. Whenever she takes action, and she does kind of stubbornly take action a few times, but it always makes everything worse. So it's just something to be aware of. It's fine, but anytime she takes action, it's to the detriment, and then the men kind of have to come and fix it. So there's that. The men talk about her a lot, which I thought was unfortunate. Like they kind of relate her emotional status, and they also make fun of her emotional status, and then the dad makes fun of the mom's emotional status. So that's a stereotype, like the women being overly emotional. And even at the end of the play, like that kind of never evolves. The dad's like, oh, something, her mom's like that, and she's not even depressed. And then the thing about her being pregnant, and like at least she could take drugs for her depression, but she couldn't take it for pregnancy. Har. And that's okay. That's sexist. It's okay, but it's never countered or reversed. Yeah. And so on stage, off stage, Philip becomes irreproachable. I had one last thing. Oh yeah, and we're missing like a real sort of like we never get her grappling with this in a way that's real and not hysterical. And either doing it like in a confrontation with Philip or with her husband. Like we just never get like we never get to see her in any other state, really. I mean, I'm generalizing, but I kind of feel like there was a missed opportunity. And even at the end when she goes to Philip and it's a super short scene and he doesn't want to talk to her, I feel like she just gets punished again. She gets punished all over again, which, you know, she's entirely responsible for her situation, so okay. But I think the men are constantly portrayed as reasonable. Like then the men are pen pals and the dad saved the day with the heart attack, and all of the men get to be sympathetic and just reasonable people. And she's entirely constantly unreasonable and keeps getting reminded of that, and then doesn't even get to have closure or anything. So those are my feelings in a nutshell. And I said them all fast, and it's not to be aggressive, it's just because I kept getting cut off before. So so now I spoke. And then that's it.
Okay. All right, that's a lot for Marc-André to take in all at once. She's not the only. I mean, everybody has their nasty moments in the play. I mean, for me, one of the ones that is right up there is Patrick's reaction in scene 7 when you know, he's asked to, could you wipe the tear away, and he refuses to, and he just shoves the paraplegic back against the window and so on.
Very hard.
Everybody has their fair share of some pretty hideous behavior patterns. So I don't know whether Marc-André, you wanted to respond to any of that, or did you want to just take the notes and take it in? And
I took some notes. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Oh, did you have something to say, Guy?
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I think there are some adjustments that we can bring. I like when you said to bring some counterpart to the sexism. That's something I used for what was anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what I used with some comments at the start of the play, and I used a little bit Patrick to counter that. And I think that at some point Isabelle doesn't have always this counterpart, so that's a good point. I'm not quite sure about when you said that guys, all the men are reasonable, because I don't find them reasonable. I think they have big flaws, the three of them. So for the short scene you talked about, it's really short on writing, but it's a scene that must be taken time to see, to feel this presence. That's one key point for me to find Isabelle attachable and likable. It's one of the first time that we see her with Philip without words, but just being there as human beings. So that's a scene that is really important for me, but we must take the time to do it for me. But thanks for your comments, because I took a lot of notes.
Of the many things that you know, I was able to hear and process, the one that really struck home was that Isabelle never gets to honestly give us her reaction to the situation. She's always on the outside of it and reacting to it. We never get inside her in the way that we do with Philip and Patrick. You know, we never get her take on what's happened from a genuine inside space. But that, as I say, there's a lot there to compute. So so that's great. Ellen, did you have anything that you wanted to throw in about the characters in terms of believability or the situation? You know, we in theater, we have to push things in order to spark the conflict that gets the story going. I wonder, is it feasible, Patrick? Do you think that in stepping on the glass during the marriage ceremony, he does that amount of physical damage to himself? Is that a real situation?
I mean, if you fall really improperly on a sharp object at the wrong place in your leg, you can very much injure yourself quite badly and need immediate hospital-like attention. It's a very possible thing, definitely.
Okay, so that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the whole premise there is, yes, generally speaking, one is wearing a shoe and a pair of pants, step on the glass, and bada bing, bada boom, it's over. But it's the unlikely scenarios that unfold here, the totally bizarre situations that the guy then slips and lands on the shard that, you know, goes into the back of his leg and hits, you know, the arterial, whatever he calls it.
Femoral artery, yeah.
Yeah, when she
But
throws
that
the
takes a lot of bad luck.
It's
falls
crazy,
down the
but these things happen.
When she throws the shoe at the back of his head, he falls down the stairs and becomes, you know, quadriplegic. These are the inciting incidents that just sort of take it to a whole other realm. But I just talked to, you had asked me what my feeling is about it. I think, thank you, Michaela, because those were very articulate and very, you know, really well-made points. I think Isabel, to me, is underdeveloped and but then there's also the whole idea that there's sort of this misogynistic dad and this history of anxiety and neurosis within the family, this inherited kind of anxiety that causes them to kind of be who they are. So there's that to look at. And just in terms of trying to bring her humanity or to see why Patrick loves her, for me, that scene 0, it doesn't really do it, because I find there's more to dislike about some of the individuals, and it's not really necessary. I kind of like starting with the inciting incident, and maybe, as Michaela says, to bring in within it, if they smoke up together, or if there's some kind of a thing, or because even in your darkest moments, if he, you know, she's sort of bucking tradition. She's marrying a non-Jew in a very religious family, so she's, you know, they're there for each other in a way that they've really kind of made space for each other. If we could find him, pull that out of her in a moment, in her darkest moments, because, you know, if she's allowed to experience it, then I think she can come to the other side with him as her loving partner, and we can see what they had, which then maybe, you know, can slip away. But I think there is room within the play itself to find those moments that we can sort of, you know, that she can appeal to us, because she's not all, I don't think she is. Maybe she reads like that now, and I agree with Michaela. But I think there is a lot more to be mined within that character.
It's not an easy road that you've chosen, Marc-André, because you're talking very serious subject matter, various serious situations, and you're trying to deal with it with humor and characters that are slightly overdrawn. That's a very tough mountain you have given yourself here to climb.
And just last thing, I just want to mention that, you know, once he's injured, Philip is injured. I mean, you know, we don't know at the beginning. He claims at the end not to have done the Nazi salute, but at the beginning, we kind of think he did, because he does it again. And that's kind of a despicable, you know, gesture to do. And for me, it's all about, a lot of it is about the jealousy that he feels for his friend, his close best friend, finding the love of his life and leaving him. And so it all stems to me from this man being left alone, and then really being left alone, and kind of, you know, so it's about acceptance. And so, yeah, I just find they're not kind of likable in that sense. Everybody has this kind of despicable or reproachable thing or behavior that they do. And I think in the end, to find one's way back to reconciliation, if that happened, and how do we forgive, and do we forgive, and why would we forgive? So that's kind of what it's about for me.
Oh, absolutely.
If I may,
yeah.
If I may say something, I played in it. I did it, and then I saw it. Okay, and in the rehearsals, I saw Geneviève Côté, which was the first Isabelle that we had, and at no moment she irritated me. I mean, she made me laugh. She was funny, and she was attachante. Comment on dirait attachante, Hélène?
Moving, almost, you know, yeah, almost moving. She was, yeah. And I understand what Michaela Dicere said. She says she is into a circle of cliches about women and all that, but men too. I mean, this guy Philippe is vulgar, and we see at the beginning when he talks with Patrick, he's always trying to make
shitty jokes,
you know, bad jokes, and you know, and it's not, the jokes are not that bad. I mean, they are cutting, you know. Come on, you know, they cut, and
they're a little harsh.
Yeah, harsh, exactly. And Patrick is used to that, to this, so it makes him laugh. But when it touches the world of the Jews and the tradition, all that, he tries to protect. He tries himself to protect this and ask him to respect this. But he knows how his friend is. They're friends since 35 years. I mean, they were kids and they were friends. And they know Isabelle, both of them, they know Isabelle for a long time because she probably was at the school with them. And, you know, they were three friends, inseparable and all that. And there is a part where Isabelle is very sympathetic. I mean, she's very touching. Is when after he smoked the joints behind the garage there, and he comes back home, and then the father didn't come back yet, and she screams at him because she doesn't want him to smoke drugs and things. And she's, are you a drug addict? Do you want to divorce? It's always extreme. But at the moment after that scene, they come close and they make games together, and then we see that they have their accomplice, and they are very close to each other, and
maybe we could.
It's a black comedy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not
Let
just about.
Let me just read here. I've just got a comment in from someone who's in the chat room with us, Kent Stetson, who is of course Montreal playwright, Governor General award-winning playwright. I'm just going to read his comment on this, what we're talking about. Why do we need to like Isabelle and Philip? Well-matched and unpleasant protagonist and antagonist. Both need to be detestable and are. Both need to be true and are. Why do we need to like Isabelle and Philip? Well-matched and unpleasant protagonist and antagonist. Excellent. Both need to be detestable and are. Both need to be culpable and are. And as to stereotypes, that's where we start. We end up somewhere quite different. Part of what makes Isabelle interesting is her hard heart, and as the antagonist, she changes very little. Bravo. So just a voice from out in internet land. Thank you very much, Ken, for that. I'm going to jump down here to Patrick. Sorry, down, because on my screen you're down here to the left, Patrick.
Yes, sir.
The character of Patrick. Talk about him a little, and how you feel about him. Is he detestable?
I mean, you know, I think that Patrick ends up in a bunch of really awful situations. We're talking about people being stuck. And I like what Manuel brought up earlier, because I've been confronted with this like recently in my own personal life growing up, I guess. And you grow up in certain circles where certain things are acceptable to say and do. And then as you grow older and you start to really interact more with different cultures, you realize, oh shit, some of this stuff is a little crazy. Like I shouldn't be saying this stuff. And You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, I can't be saying that stuff no more. That's why. But I find that, especially in the first scene, it's really funny how, like you were saying, Manuel, they have this thing where he understands what he's saying, and it's something you would giggle at, but it's really great to see how as soon as the one thing that he's now opened his heart to is brought up, he's willing to stand for it and say, no, this is not, we're not gonna make jokes like that no more. But to talk about Patrick and his character, I guess his character arc and development, it's just a lot of I think you get stuck in a lot of really one in a million kind of situations, and he just tries to navigate those, really.
Yeah, just I really liked what Ellen said though about the relationship, and maybe that's something Marc-André, just to think about, that is, they're out on a limb. You know, these are two a non-traditional marriage for each of them in a sense, and so there must be a bond there, and they know that they're stepping out on a limb, and they have got to have each other's back in this situation. I really like that, and I would, if there were a way to deal with scene zero, as we're calling it, I'd like to see maybe some of that be very clear, that this is, the situation itself starts from being a little bit tense, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So my question then, Patrick, that I threw at you earlier, is do we see him torn between his best friend and the love of his life enough? I mean, it's as Michaela said, he acts like a little bit of a wimp, you know, in that situation.
Yeah.
That's what incites the whole thing.
I mean, yeah, Patrick's a little bit of a doormat when it's like, you know, when it counts and stuff. I don't think that's not great on him, but yeah, I definitely think that, I think he is torn, but I think he has this sense of, I guess, just allegiance that he respects, or either he's just too scared to actually say what he thinks when it counts and to make people angry at him, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure really.
I thought Ellen was eloquent with her statement that Philippe is actually jealous. That's the prime motivator for the whole situation. He's jealous that his best friend is moving on and has found something that he will never find.
And to me, that's why I feel that within that, you know, the day of his best friend's wedding, that all this should unfold, and how does he handle it in that moment, and wanting attention, seeing that his love go somewhere else. That's why to me, scene zero has some other issues and problems that don't really, that I just felt like it's not. I think Kent actually made a comment that it feels like an apology in advance.
Yeah.
And there's some other isms present within that scene that are even more, you know, also to me a little problematic.
Yeah.
I mean, as it stands, and I know we haven't talked about it. I just saw it for the first time today, and but no.
But it's interesting, that tension then is also potentially, I mean, the moment you have that kind of tension in the air, a triangle between best friend and the love of your life, that is partially why you might slip and fall at the same time. You know, it's that underlying tension in the whole wedding ceremony that may, you know, instigated that fall as well, and has instigated the tension in what Philippe does, that gesture, which we never know. Did he actually do a full-out Nazi salute, or what was it? Do we ever need to know? Do we want to know? Do you know, Marc-André, what he did?
Oh, I know. I have my own version of the thing, but I don't think the public needs to know. That's what's interesting with. You can think he did it, or you can think he didn't, and I've heard a lot of spectators after the show talking about that.
Right.
And I think it's a fun way to bring it, and to bring people to imaginate what they want with it. And the production.
Sorry, Marc. If somebody does a gesture like that right off the get, very early on, you know, do we write them off? People who we think we know or love or are our friends in the community do something despicable.
Yeah.
We had that relationship with them. We know them a different way, and suddenly there's something else. And now he's marrying this woman who his allegiance is going there. Does he completely then eliminate that guy from his life, saying, you did that, you behaved that way, I want you? Does he still feel some kind of allegiance for him, recognizing that he's done the worst thing possible for a woman whose ancestors were, you know, killed by the Nazis? It's very complex. And that's what I find makes it very interesting to me, that it's not black and white. It's just, you know,
Yes.
Everyone is detestable, and everyone is looking for redemption, and everyone is trying what you know, acting on whatever is motivating them in a specific moment, which might be horrible behavior, sort of warts and all, kind of is what I'm just sort of looking at as I see this, and trying to make sense of it, and trying to come out the other end, you know, hopeful, praying that the characters have some kind of peace of mind, or have learned, or have evolved, or not, and then, you know, then they go on whoever they are in life.
That's I mean, right, whether if he did, do you write him off totally? Exactly right. Somebody that you have known and liked in the past and respected, suddenly you find out something that they did in the past that was despicable. Do you write them off or not? That is that's a heavy question. Marc-André, this play you presented in French. You even published it in French. Are you okay with this idea that we're trying to get another draft and that you're going to rewrite it? Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. I'm cool with it. I think I'm probably more near of a last draft than a first draft. So that's good. That's a relief. But yeah, that's the thing also with being published. You change things afterwards and you're like, oh, but on paper, when the few people who buys plays will read this, it's not the final version, but it's too late. You know, I'm just happy to know that this story will continue to evolve and to meet a new audience.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions for us, Marc-André? Any questions you have that you would like to know from us?
Yeah, sure. I'll come back to one of the first questions you asked. If how can someone who is not from a community talk about it? And I would like to ask the question to Patrick.
Yeah.
Do you think a white person could write something about a Black community? Or are there some spaces where you can't go in your point of view?
I really love that question. And this is what I'll say. I think that somebody who is of Aboriginal descent said this to me once, and it was in the context of Fight On. You will remember this guy. This was Breffney. And she said, nothing about us without us. I thought that was very powerful. I think that anybody who wants to write a story, the art form of theater is one that is supposed to bring people together. I think it's one that's supposed to liberate people's minds. I think theater is this like fringe means of communication by which intelligent people try to communicate with each other and make sure that we get together and do the right things.
And talk about them.
And talk about them most specifically, right? And try to break these sort of like imaginary barriers we've created between each other where we cannot empathize or have compassion or understanding. I think that we do not serve each other as a species, which is humans, if we create divisions and places where people cannot go to have conversations, especially people who have goodwill and intent and heart and want to learn. I don't think that we serve anybody by doing those things. So I think 100%, I think for a time, if you were a Black person, if a white person wasn't telling your story, nobody was listening. So it's of utmost importance that any and all races be able to have these conversations and tell these stories. But I think that there is due process for these things. And again, nothing about us without us. If you don't know something, if you don't know something about your health, you're going to call a doctor. If you don't know something about the culture, just call somebody that you know that's there, who can reference, who can tell you where to get that information. They may not have it themselves, but they will definitely pave the way for you in the right direction. So I think that all of this talk of like, nobody should be doing this and that doesn't make sense. Everything can happen. It's about how we do these things. And I think that all of it is just make sure that you got the right people beside you, and make sure that your information is right, and push yourself to do the work. Don't do something easy because it's easy. Do something that's real because it's worth it. That's what I believe.
And let's face it, we're absolutely, Patrick, that was beautifully eloquent, but we're human,
I appreciate
right?
that.
We're humans, and we're going to fuck up, right? We're not
100%.
The Greek sculptures always had a little defect at the hidden at the feet, because they knew that perfection was for the gods. But we've got to keep pushing and trying and getting people talking. That's
100%.
I'd like to
I think that Mazel Tov does that.
Ellen,
ask Michaela and Manuel what they feel. I mean, I'm Jewish. I went to see a play by a young Francophone writer about a Jewish story. And afterwards, there was a talk back from sort of very well-respected scholars in the community that particular night about these issues. I went to meet him. I know he had done his due diligence, as Patrick is saying, his research, put it out there and read it from a book. But I'm just curious to see what the two of you feel about someone, from that community writing about something totally foreign. Just, Patrick gave his opinion. I'm interested.
I think he did it the right way. I think that Marc-André did it the right way. He did it. He did his research. He has friends. And when I read it the first time, because I have all my poker fellows are Jewish.
Classic.
Actually, yeah. And I went to a lot of bat mitzvahs. I went to the circoncision. I went to the synagogue many times. I went to Peppermint many times. I'm not Jewish, but they say that at the most I am the most Jew of the non-Jew. Because I know a lot because I was educated by a Jewish family. They were neighbors, and my mother, she was a couturière, and those two ladies, they were Jewish, and they educated me with traditions and things like this. And I felt very well about this, because it's good to laugh about things. It's good to have a criticism on both sides. I mean, it's equal. I think it's. I think, man, that Leon is pretty. He's probably one of the guys that we cannot very criticize a lot. Maybe he is a misogynist, as you say, Michaela, and I knew it too. But it's just because he's older. He's another generation. Yeah. And all these things now, they have changed with everything that we live. It's normal. Even the jokes we used to do before, we don't do that anymore because it's finished. I mean, we evaluate, we become more empathetic about everything that is around the world. We have the internet. We know what is happening in Africa, in Asia, and everywhere in South America and all that. So we know about these things. So we are able, even if we're not Jewish, we are able to understand and to put ourselves in it. And during the Mazel Tov play, s'il y a un malaise, comment on dirait un malaise, Hélène, en anglais?
Uneasiness. But I just want to make sure we have time to hear Michaela's take on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would just say, if we have a malaise, well,
misgivings.
It's good. It's good. I mean, it's good for the show. It's not bad.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, and Michaela, sorry.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said, and also, Patrick put it so beautifully earlier. I think that research and consultation is the way to go. Is the least of the due diligence that needs to happen in a situation of writing about another culture, another community. And I think listening is also really important. I think that one of the tenets that I would hold to, and especially right now, especially at a time when anti-Semitic hate crimes are on the rise and things like this. Just that if anybody in the community that you're representing has a concern, not the same as what Manuel was saying about an audience being uncomfortable, because we always want them to be a bit uncomfortable, but I think really listening to concerns beforehand as much as possible. And I don't know, Ellen, if you were asking about my particular community, but on that point, I would just say that I've seen people within the community do more damage to the community in my particular case than people outside of it writing about
That's
it.
funny.
So there's always that concern. So I think that whenever something is written respectfully and against stereotype, then I don't care who's writing it. I just want to see stereotypes being broken.
One last quick question, and actually it comes from Marc-André. Thibault, do we now, in order to show how contemporary a play is, do we have to have the COVID reference all through it?
Oh my goodness.
We don't want it. We don't want COVID.
I don't know. It's like the COVID story is kind of like still being written as we speak. Like it's kind of like this really marking moment that's still happening.
Yeah,
so
I know,
what's going to happen after?
It's reality. I watch an old film now and I wonder why they're not in masks. You know, something
Yeah.
from the 50s or 60s. You're watching
That's
these
unbelievable.
classical films and you're going, your whole perspective on the world is now have to do with this new reality. Anyway, it's a silly question, but it's a serious question as well. But anybody got one last quick comment? Yes, Ellen.
I have. Well, I mean, thank you, Guy, for organizing this. And I just want to say it was announced yesterday in the newspaper and online that you're stepping down in February as artistic director of Infinite Theater.
That's
after
right.
2 plus 25 something years. I just want to congratulate you for everything you've done for our community and what you've done in Quebec and across Canada. I think it's of such value, and I've really appreciated knowing you, working with you. You adjudicated my master's thesis performance many years ago, gave me my first directing gig professionally in Montreal. And I just want to say thank you so much for everything, and all the best to you on your
on
the journey.
Okay. That's a longer conversation, Ellen. It touches me greatly that it comes from you in that way. Thank you very much for saying that. And longer conversation next week. It's an Alice Abracen play, The Children of Egypt. Same place, same time. And we look forward to seeing you all there. And Marc-André, merci beaucoup. You want to say something, a last word?
Yeah, I just want to take the time to thank you all, guys, to have been here tonight. Guy, Michaela, Manuel, Patrick, and Hélène. I'm really grateful for your time and your comments.
Well,
yes, sir.
Mazel Tov.
That's right. To quote Michaela, thank you for listening. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Everybody. Good night. We'll see you next week.
Yes, bientôt.
Have a good week.
You too.